Now, it's been a week of rather bad manners, folks. As we say, Tony Blair threatened a comeback, but along the way he had to deny he'd called Jezza a nutter, and Theresa May a lightweight. As John says, you can't un-Google these things. Labour MPs completely ignored their own shadow chancellor of the dispatch box so they could play Pokemon Go. And to top it all off, our little Porty here was thrown out of Lulu's for trying to pardon a turkey in the middle of the restaurant. But thankfully, Nigel Farage is the gift that keeps on giving. He showed us that it's not actually rude for a US president to tell us what to do, especially if he gets a job from it, which is why Stewart Lee is putting our P's and Q's in this week's Spotlight.
I want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving.
That's right, it's that time of year when the president politely grants a turkey reprieve from the heat of the White House oven.
Pat, I hereby pardon you from the Thanksgiving table, and we hope that you have a wonderful time in Gobbler's Rest.
But Mike Pence wasn't spared a roasting on Friday night.
Alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us.
Was it bad manners for cast members of the musical Hamilton to single out the incoming vice president after their performance?
I wasn't offended by what was said. I'll leave to others whether it was the appropriate venue to say it.
And were the American Music Awards really an appropriate place for model Gigi Hadid to lampoon the future First Lady this week?
I love my husband, President Barack Obama.
Thank you. God bless you.
In more salacious news, on the eve of his autumn statement, we learned about Spreadsheet Phil's teenage kicks.
We ended up having a bit of a cheeky snog.
But is it bad manners to kiss and tell?
That's a little bit I like to call when polite conversation goes wrong.
Stewart Lee has made a successful career out of poking fun at people. So are manners really that important? And Stewart Lee joins us now. Welcome back to the programme, Stewart. Now, in a recent article, you were very polite about this programme. I'll come back to Molly the dog in a minute, whose friend is actually a pit bull terrier just waiting outside the door there. You said you'd rather not be polite to particular politicians. Yeah. Why?
Well, OK, in that I just come off doing... being backstage in the green room at Peston's show, which is a very inferior copy of this, I think. And
I like him already.
And I was sort of sitting with Suzanne Evans from UKIP, and obviously, as I'm a stereotype member of the Metropolitan Liberal elite, so I felt that I ought to disagree with her. But then on the other hand, I thought, well, we're backstage in this place where you've been taken to do a job. I couldn't work out what the right ethics of it was. And I think, you know, with that little bit of film you played in there with the cast of that musical addressing Pence directly, there seem to be all sorts of problems now where people feel very polarised about what's happening in the world, and we don't quite know what the rules of engagement are now.
Because you said you wanted to stop doing shows like this so that you stop meeting people that you really think you should despise but felt friendly to.
Yeah, well, it is cool. Well, actually, I don't like Dan Hannan because he's always slagging me off in the paper. But I sat there quietly listening to what he was talking about, and I heard him say a brilliant sentence.
What was that?
He said that Matthew Parrish lives in a Spanish cave. And if I'd got into an argument with him, I would not have heard that sentence. So now I know that piece of information. So it's the value of politeness.
You see, if you
He's got a cave in Spain, apparently, that he lives in, Matthew Parrish. He's a troglodyte.
It's next to Michael's cave.
Well, then
there goes the neighbourhood.
Well, then the SNP's bloke said they're all living in caves there now. They've been gentrified, the caves. So I now know that as a result of politeness, and I wouldn't have known that if I'd gone in, arguing with everyone.
I guess the danger of what you're saying is if you end up only speaking to people that you are broadly in agreement with, or listening to people you're broadly in agreement with, you end up, which is very much like America. If you're right-wing, you watch Fox News. Yeah. If you're left, you watch MSNBC. Yeah. Radio stations cater to. No. It's an echo chamber.
Yeah, I think this is a problem, and obviously something I've been trying to write about in the new show is that because our next destination on the internet is generated by algorithms. If you like this, see this.
Yes.
Then people tend to go down wormholes where they only follow their own views. And the days when you would read a newspaper and accidentally come across a story that was perhaps about something you didn't already know about are sort of on the way out. So I think the polarised results in the Brexit vote and in the Trump vote are partly about this thing. And for example, before I came out tonight to do my show, at 5:30 I always look at the internet to see if anyone I've got a joke about has suddenly lost their job because anything's happening. And I saw the trending story on Twitter was that Clint Eastwood has refused an honour from Obama and said he's not my president, right? Yeah, well, he hasn't, has he? 3 minutes later, I searched it. It's a fake news story that's done it. But the problem now is that this is out there everywhere, and people can follow fake news stories. There's no...
There's no filter, there's no editing, in other words. Yeah. And let me come back to the politeness bit. You always strike me as a very polite chap, Michael. Do you think you've been too polite over the years?
Possibly a little too polite, but I do value politeness, and I've also been amazed how much politeness I've received. Because, you know, when I was a politician, I was quite unpopular, and yet people I met in the street, on the whole, either decided not to speak to me or would come and speak to me very, very politely. I've only had 2 or 3 instances of people being sort of really foul to me in the street, which, considering I was quite high profile in those days, is quite surprising.
And you're very polite too, Liz, but in that campaign, people were not always polite to you.
No, they weren't. But I think you can be angry about an issue but polite to the person. And it is, I certainly remember, well, you remember this during the referendum campaign. I was in one of your debates with Dan Hannan and Farage on the other side, and you have to see them backstage, and you want to be polite. You're not going to get into a big chat, but you have got to talk to people who don't agree with you. I mean, I do. I have to knock on any door, find out what people think, and some of them are deeply angry and completely against my party, but you can hopefully do it in a polite way.
We need to end. Just tell us briefly, what are you up to now? What's the tour?
I've got a new show called Content Provider that's on till February in London, and then I'll be on the road for a year and a half around the country, as long as the news still has some relationship with the story I originally wrote for the show.
Everybody's being polite about it. Come back.
Thanks very much.
Don't neglect us. That's your lot for tonight, folks, but not for us, because we're heading to Lulu's, where Bear Grylls has set up a UKIP leadership survival course, complete with hand-to-hand combat and a step-by-step guide on how to apply for a US green card, and also how to apply for the US Green Berets. Nigel Farage sadly can't attend. He's too busy helping Donald Trump pick Theresa May's next cabinet. Nighty-night. Don't let the ambassador's chocolates bite.
The ambassador's receptions are noted in society for their host's exquisite taste that captivates his guests.
You all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
Excelente.
I know that virtually none of you have ever done a proper job in your lives.
Ferrero Rocher.
You, as a political project, are in denial. Do enjoy the 10th birthday of the Euro, because I very much doubt you'll be celebrating the 20th. Obama and all those ghastly people are out, and the Trump people are in, and they're now in control.
Excelente.